As they were going, they were cleansed. And one of them, realizing that he had been healed, returned, glorifying God in a loud voice, and he fell at the feet of Jesus and thanked him. He was a Samaritan. Jesus said in reply, 10 were cleansed, were they not? Where are the other 9? Has none but this foreigner returned to give thanks to God? Then he said to him, stand up and go. Your faith has saved you. My friends, the gospel of the Lord. Praise to you, Lord. Hello? Hello? Can you hear me? Hello? Okay, good, we're good. All right, so where was I? A proud and doting grandmother was walking with her 2-year-old grandson in the beautiful shore of Miami Beach, when all of a sudden, out of nowhere, came a big and huge wave, came crashing to the shore, sweeping the little boy out to sea. And of course, horrified, the grandmother fell on her knees and begged the highest heavens and said, please return my boy. And then lo and behold, another big wave came crashing to shore, tossing the little boy back to shore right in front of her. And of course, she embraced him and said, oh my God, my boy. And then she checked on him, and everything's okay. And then she noticed something. And then she kind of looked up to heaven and said, when we came here, he had a hat. Now, where is that hat? Gratitude, right? One of the beautiful things that we learn, I think the most beautiful things that we learn, even as we were children, is to say thank you. And how beautiful it is to see little boys, little girls saying thank you for just little acts of kindness that you show them. And we carry that all our lives. We say thank you. I don't know how many times a day, when people are opening doors for you, also thank you. I appreciate it. Gratitude. A lot of times our life is defined by gratitude. As Christians, that is also the defining line of our faith, of our life, that our life is a life of gratitude. But not simply gratitude, but humble gratitude. Humble gratitude is to acknowledge that everything that we have and all that we are comes from God. We own nothing. St. Paul would say, we brought nothing into this world, and we will leave this world bringing with us nothing. Everything comes from God. Our readings of today are very beautiful. The first and the gospel reading. We see these 2 gentlemen. One was they were both lepers. One is Naaman, and then the other one was the Samaritan leper. And their humble gratitude led them to God. The story of Naaman brings us back 850 years before Christ. At that time, Israel and Syria were at war. Well, even until today, they're still kind of technically at war, right? They shoot missiles every now and then. But that's a long war, 850 years before Christ, and still, after 2,000 years, they're still at odds with each other. But anyway, so there was a general in Syria, but the former name was Aram. That's why they are called Arameans. Like even Abraham was a wandering Aramean. And so Aram, but Syria, we just call it Syria. It's easier for us to understand. So Naaman was a Syrian military general. He was a proud general, and he was a valiant warrior, and he had won so many battles. But there was one weakness that he had. He was a leper. And he sought help from all doctors or all kinds of treatments, but nothing helped, until this little girl in his household, a Jewish girl who was their slave. Maybe she was captured during one of the wars or battles, and so they took her as a slave. And this little girl knew of a prophet in Israel. And so she suggested to Naaman and said, Sir, I know there is a prophet in Israel by the name of Elijah. Elijah or Elisha is the successor of Elijah, the greatest prophet of Israel. So I know there is a prophet in Israel, Elisha or Elijah, that can probably heal you of your leprosy. Again, this is a proud general taking an advice from a little girl and a slave girl at that. He truly humbled himself and said, well, that's a good idea. And so I need to go to Israel. But they're at war. He cannot enter Israel because Israel is an enemy territory. So he had to go to his own king and ask the king, his own king, the Syrian king, to write a letter for him to be able to pass through, safe passage to Israel. And the letter from king to king, the king of Syria and the king of Israel. And you can just imagine, the king of Israel reading that letter from the king of Syria. Your general is a leper? It was very humbling for that general Naaman. But then he did it. And then when he found where prophet Elijah was living, the prophet would not even show himself to him or meet him. He just sent a messenger to the general. Again, a very humiliating situation. You don't know me. I'm a general. And you're just a prophet. You don't want to meet me? You don't know who you're dealing with. But then he humbled himself. Okay, I listen to what you're saying. And then this messenger said, well, the prophet wants you to go and bathe in the Jordan River. Bathe there 7 times. And looks at the river. That's a very dirty river, a murky river. I don't know if you've been to Israel. I was there last March. I baptized in the river Jordan, their only river Jordan. It was not the cleanest of rivers, like, I could see birds droppings there and all kinds of, it's murky. But then we baptized. I baptized people there. They call me Glenn the Baptizer. And this general said, there's so many beautiful rivers in Syria. In Damascus, we have wide rivers, big rivers, clean rivers. And as a matter of fact, my country and even my gods, or our gods, are far superior than the gods of Israel. But then, he wanted to leave. I'm not doing this. I want to go home. But then his inferiors, his subjects, kind of, again, listening from the advice of his inferiors, and said, sir, please, just do this. You might be healed. Something might happen to you. Just believe. Okay, I'll do this. And then, of course, he bathed 7 times, and we know the story. And this is where our reading today started. He bathed 7 times, and after the 7th time, his skin was so clear that like the skin of a little baby. And this series of acts of humility of Naaman led him to discover God and said, there's no other greater God in all the world except the God of Israel. And he thanked Elijah, the prophet. He wanted to give him silver and gold. But Elijah said, no, I cannot take it. I'm not here for profit. I'm not here to take gifts from people. Just go and thank God. And then he said, well, can I have 2 mule loads of soil so I can carry it with me? And I cross the border, I go to Syria, and there I will put this, the soil of Israel, the land of Israel, so I can worship the God of Israel from now on. No other God except the God of Israel. His humility led him to discover God, the God of Israel. And his gratitude, God returned it with a gift of faith. He was a believer. And in our beautiful story in the Gospel of St. Luke, the same thing. This Samaritan leper, he was among 9 other lepers, but they were all Jewish people. Again, he humbled himself. We don't really know about the Samaritans a lot because we don't read a lot of them. But in the Gospels, they are always put in a bad light. Samaritans are, nobodies. These people are, they don't deserve attention. They're not special people. But the Samaritans are very proud. They said, no, we are the true Israelites. We are the true Jewish people. And they call themselves, we are the Bnei Israel. Bnei Israel. We are the children of Israel. During the persecution of the Assyrians that led to their exile in Babylon, they remained. Samaritans are Jews. They remain. And then the Jews, of course, accuse them that, yeah, you remain because you kind of, collaborated with the pagans. You worship their gods. And you intermarried with pagans and Gentiles. You corrupted our religion. But they said, no, we are the true religion. We are the true Israel. We are the children of Israel. So they're also very proud. There's enmity between the Jews and the Samaritans. They are very proud. But this leper Samaritan was one among the 10. And of course, we know the story that after they were healed, he was the only one that returned to Jesus and humbled himself before Christ. He fell at his feet and said, thank you for the gift of healing. And his act of humility led him to discover his faith. While all the other 9 went back to their own homes and went back to their own lives, he started a different journey. He started a new life with Christ. And his act of kindness and his act of gratitude and humility led him to discover God in Christ. And Christ gave him this beautiful gift of faith. And he said, your faith has saved you. As Catholics, we are so blessed because Jesus has given us this beautiful gift that we can thank him for everything in our lives. The Eucharist. He teaches us how to thank God by the celebration of the Eucharist, because the Eucharist, we know, is thanksgiving. The word Eucharist is the Greek word for thanksgiving, Eucharistia, thanksgiving. And when we come here, we thank God. This is our moment of gratitude. This is our humble act of gratitude to God. If you notice, the beginning and towards the end of the Mass, and even in between, we always say thank you, and we humble ourselves. At the beginning of the Mass, we have what we call the penitential rite, where we say, I confess to Almighty God, or we say, Lord have mercy, Christ have mercy, Lord have mercy. We ask God's forgiveness. We bow before him that we are here not really worthy, but he makes us worthy to receive him. And before we receive communion, we say the words of the centurion, a pagan, a Roman centurion, when we say, Lord, I am not worthy to have you under my roof, but only say the word, and my soul shall be healed. So all throughout the celebration of the Eucharist, we humble ourselves and we say thank you. Thank you to God. Thank you to Jesus. But then the question is, where are the other 9? That's the question Jesus was asking. There were 10, were they not? Where are the other 9? Has only one come back to say thank you? And none but this foreigner, this Samaritan? Where are the other 9? I think Jesus I think this very statement of Jesus is kind of true to us even until today. We know that there's so many Catholics all over the world, maybe close to 1 billion Catholics. But we also know there's only about 20 to 25% of the many millions of Catholics really attend church and come to Mass to do thanksgiving, to celebrate their gratitude with God and to God. And even with this 20 or 25, even half of that, only really half of that, are really faithfully following the teachings of Jesus and really come regularly and diligently and religiously and sincerely to come to Mass, just like you here. I see you every Sunday, and many of you I see even almost every day in our chapel for Mass, because every day is a day of thanksgiving to the Lord. It's kind of, where are the 90%? Only 10% really come and say thank you? And probably this is one way of, for those of you who have families that don't really go to church because it's boring, the priest's sermon is long and boring and all of that, and the singing is lousy or whatever. Maybe you will tell them, well, you go to church not because just the sacraments, of course, but we go to church to thank God. Go because that is the best way to thank God, because the Eucharist is a thanksgiving. Maybe that's the way to invite them. Not just to go and attend Mass and, spend an hour, but you're actually going there to thank you, because every one of us, little boys, little girls, and all of us adults, we know what it means to say thank you. We know what it means to say our gratitude, express our gratitude. And the Eucharist is this place where we can say thank you to God. Because in the end, we know that without God, we are nothing.